Hello again. Somehow or other, the video just stopped then. Apologies for that. I had no control of it. Who knows if it's going to go off again. If somebody is hopefully now watching this, I'm just going to send a message there. Sorry about this. Okay, well, I'm back again now. So hello, everybody. I hope everyone gets back online. Well, it just went off. The video was interrupted. It stopped. So I've just started another one. I hope that's fine. There's nothing much I can do about it now. I've started again. Okay, where was I? That was a good question. I was right. Yes, Mani Bunda, and I was right in the song of singing the Guru Puja to our Guru, Shri Guru Chalana Padma Kevala Bhakati Satma Bandhu Mui Sabadana Mate. That's how the song used to go. I haven't sung it for ages. It's a very beautiful melody. And I learned later a Mridanga beat from that from Kula Shaker when he reappeared in the story about a year or so later. It was a wonderful period. And as Muni Bunda was a great cook and very, we got on really, really well. And I used to become, that was what one of my main services was, helping in the kitchen. So I would go in and talk with Mani Bunda about life, about Iskcon and what's going on in the world and his stories, and it was fascinating. Also, before that, I used to go in the mornings and walk from the ashram to the incense factory with Vimukta Sangha. And that was very interesting because that's where some of the married people lived as well. And they would put on these lovely cassettes, and we would help kind of fill up scents, essential oils, many of them synthetic, and some and pack incense packets. And I would hear many stories from Vimukta Sangha about. I was very fascinated with the characters that were in the Iskcon movement. Now, an interesting phenomena happens generally with people that join spiritual groups and institutions, is that there's this whole story that they go through and maybe a path of self-discovery and have some deep experiences. And it's possibly the main reason, it was with me, why I decided to join the group, because then you believe that the group somehow or other represents this a kind of mystical goal, this experience, this divine spiritual thing. But then there's this package around this, which is this the institution and the tradition that's surrounding this kind of process of mystical introspection. And what happens is, I think it's Maslow that says it, is that the group, what happens is, over a period of time, and it happens quite quickly, is that the group is so encompassing and all absorbing that you get lost in the group, almost takes over and becomes the predominant focus of one's life. And that's what happened to me. I'm doing a live share, Ramnashinga.
Oh, sorry, it seemed to stop at my end. I'll reboot my phone.
Yeah. I've just got a new video up. Just start with the new one. I've carried on.
Okay, cool.
Okay, thanks. Hurry on. So sorry, everybody who was just watching my video and it stopped. I'm carrying on now, so hopefully you'll get round to watching this video, which is the continuation of just what I was saying. And okay. I keep losing my focus. Sorry. Okay. Got to go back in focus. Yes, groups. So there I was, absorbed. I'm telling the story about what was happening. So this was my experience, and I've got so many memories. I was just I was getting used to this new family, the social interactions, the daily routines, all the things that this new institution and its culture was based upon: songs, cooking, tradition, philosophy. And then there was all these other more complex things, because I also noticed through Kula Shaker and my friends Vimukta Sangha, and in fact, Amsterdam Temple, even though it was under the hierarchy of the power in Iskcon, it was Hansadutta was a GBC. And Amsterdam was under his control, really. But there was a little bit of, bless his soul, because he just passed away again. But in Amsterdam, Kula Sheikh had been in Germany in the early days and had kind of had a few confrontations. They had personality clashes, is the best way to say it. And the other devotees, also Manibanda and Tulsidas, and some of the other, there was some other older devotees that were going to come and be part of this. I think at that time was Bhakti Jan, who'd come from India. These were all older devotees, and they were kind of come to Amsterdam because it was a kind of a haven, and they liked Tulsidas, and they weren't that keen on Hansadutta, who was very, very charismatic and very doing a brilliant job in Germany for the German devotees. There wasn't many others but Germans in those days. But in Amsterdam, there was a little bit of a, I picked this up straight away. The devotees in Amsterdam were like into their own little trip, and they didn't want Hansadutta coming in and telling them what to do. That was an interesting part of my education. And also, this was something that was going to develop in my understanding about the institution. Institutions are very, very complex. And as I mentioned earlier, everything in this story nothing is static, and it's constantly changing. So kind of literally, even in this period of time while I'm there, things are moving in Amsterdam, things are moving in Paris, and there things are evolving. And behind the scenes, what is happening, and there's some things that I'm going to still haven't fully researched yet, but I'm in the process of researching them, was how we went from this building in this garage in the Bataillonstraat, and we were going to kind of move to this quite brilliant, massive property on the other side, slightly other side of the center of Amsterdam. But something even kind of just before this was going to happen was I'd written home to my family during this period, and I'd got a letter back, and it was all very nice. And I told them I was enjoying myself, I was safe and everything. And then I got the second letter back about a month or so later, and I was all very excited, got the letter, ran upstairs to the room, opened it, and it was from my brother. And it was, dear Mark, I am very sorry to tell you, but our father passed away on the 15th of December. And I was not expecting that. My father was only 52. And when we'd left, we'd become kind of a bit estranged from each other because of my focus on the spiritual life and his kind of rejection of religion and everything. And I was in this deep, and my brother wrote, well, we don't expect you to come back for the funeral because of your commitment to your lifestyle, but and everything. And because I often wonder why I didn't actually go, but I didn't go back for my father's funeral, unfortunately. I stayed there, but I wrote a letter. Actually, my father was only 52 and my mother was only 47. And immediately my emotions went to my mother. What it must be like now to be 47 and suddenly lose your husband. And my brother had left home. He'd gone up to Stoke Newington, and I'd left. And now she was there alone. I cried, obviously. I was very emotional. And it was very, They were very nice at the temple. When I told them what had happened with the letter, they were all very, very compassionate. Tulsi Das and Vimukta Sangha and Hare Krishna, and everyone was very sympathetic, and it was easier to help me take that. Okay, I thought I'd just mention that. So then what happened was, there was this property, Amsterdam, there's these grachts or canals that kind of, you have to say it properly, I can't say it properly, that go round Amsterdam. And so there's one of the, Heren means the gentleman and gracht means canal. So it was quite a posh canal. And I didn't really know what was going on. I was just a newie. And suddenly Tulsi Das, Bhakti Jan and me and maybe Manibanda, they somehow or other, I was selected to go with this group to go and see this new building that we were planning to move into. And we went to this building, and it was just like, compared with where we were, it was just like, oh my goodness. There were steps going up to the front door, and there was a basement down below. And it was, I think it was 18th century, maybe even older. And it was 1, 2, 3 stories and another story and then a basement. And it had been a hat factory and was it a wig factory? And we just kind of went in there like little kids. There was this, you came to the massive big entrance hall, these rooms with these kind of big panels with quite ornate fabric stretched in panels in the walls. There was even some kind of chandeliers left, parquet flooring on the floor, this kind of sweeping staircase that went up, and then we kind of ran up through, looked at the different, there was all the stuff left over from the factory everywhere, and we just looked around and kind of got an idea of the different rooms, went up higher and higher and higher, saw it all. And I think they were all goofing around, putting on hats and wigs and stuff, and it was, I'd never seen the older devotees kind of larking around like this, and it was quite fun. And to be, as a young devotee, kind of brought into it as the younger one. And so within this is quite a bit. Eventually, some months later, I think it was February, we ended up moving into this building. And when we, in the process of moving into the building, we were putting things outside the temple to put onto trucks to take them there. And my guitar got ripped off by somebody. It was such a silly thing to do. I put the guitar outside, and somebody had obviously just seen it, and it was in a case, and it was hanging outside when no one was there, and someone had taken it. That was a bit of a drag. So I didn't have a guitar for years in the temple. That was a shame. Not that I'd been playing it that much. I'd just become so absorbed in all the practices and the lifestyle of being a devotee that was a kind of totally, you'd hardly had time to oneself. One of the times I remember being kind of having time to myself to reflect on everything and to kind of read. I started to read the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That was a really good book that Prabhupada had come out with in those days. It was a good synopsis of the whole life and teachings of Chaitanya, because later he was going to come out with a translation of one of the most central hagiographies of Sri Chaitanya, called the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, but that was going to be a couple of years later. And so he had the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I was beginning to go through that, and there was this other wonderful text called the Brahma Samhita, which hadn't been translated by Prabhupada, but it was from the Gaudiya Math, and a translation, apparently with some purports and explanations by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And I was reading this, and it was blowing my mind. It was absolutely incredible. And the verse and the song that we heard from the Radha Krishna album from that George Harrison had produced, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. That was the refrain. That's the kind of the phrase that keeps coming in the Brahma Samhita. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. It means I offer my obeisances to Govinda, who's the original Supreme Lord. And there's also these beautiful descriptive verses. It's meant to be the offering of Brahma the demiurge who creates the universe, who's created on a lotus flower, doesn't understand where he's coming from, who he is, goes into deep meditation to try and figure out his origins, and it's revealed to him that he is the first being to be created in the universe, and he has darshan of the supreme being, Sri Krishna, and he's given initiation by Krishna's flute. The Gayatri mantra comes out, he is enlightened, and he has a vision of the transcendental realm, the spiritual world. This book is not accepted by all, even Vaishnava lineages. It's a very, very specific book that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered in South India when he was walking around in South India. And it's very important for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Sri Chaitanya. And so I was reading that and getting lost in that. But I didn't have that much time. I was so busy, absorbed in all of the devotional practices. Okay, I've just got to put this back in. Excuse me. There we go. Sorry about that. Needed to be powered up. I really hope some of the other people have followed me onto this video and see that this video is going on. If not, you have to kind of catch up with it later. Okay, so we moved into this temple, and it was this was a big jump for the Krishna movement in Holland, going from this little garage tucked away near the red light district to this quite prestigious building on the Herengracht. And during this process, more and more people were joining. Another devotee who had joined just around the same time of me, about 2 weeks later, and was a little older, was called Radha, who was going to be very close friends with me and part of my story, because we joined at around 2 weeks difference, and we were both. I was the youngest, and he was the second youngest in the temple. He was part of the scene, and this Jake. Jatismara, who became Jatismara, he had gone traveling, but then it was discovered that he was actually very good with his hands, and so he kind of came back to the temple to do all this service that needed to be done. Manibanda was also very, very practical at building and doing carpentry and all of this work. And we had a few friends, people that weren't living in the ashram, but were kind of part of the congregation and close members. And there was a family that I became very close with. That was Hare and Ingrid and their 2 children, Vanessa and Nimai. And I'm still close with Ingrid. Unfortunately, Hare passed away. And he was also very practical. And there was another chap called Anton, who was good friends of the temple. And they used to come for the services and the programs and stay in their houses. And they came to do some voluntary help. And one of the first things that we had to do was mix some cement down in the basement to make we had to make some kind of shower arrangements. At that time, we started down in the basement. Where's the new community going to have to take their shower? The kitchen and the shower were 2 of the important things that we had to establish. And the temple room came gradually. Jagannath was installed up on the first floor upstairs. The living quarters were right upstairs. There was a prasadam room upstairs, and then there was another big room down backstairs. And there wasn't that many devotees, and so many of the devotees got absorbed in just kind of working in the temple, and we were mixing the cement. And I just remember having this kind of real bonding conversation with Manibanda, where I don't know, I was so young when I joined. I always had this feeling that you kind of grow and grow and get stronger and stronger and bigger. And I was just this kind of young boy still. And while we were working, I realized that it was a kind of male bonding experience between elder generation. And I suddenly realized that I had as much energy. He was impressed with the energy that I had. And I suddenly realized that actually in these months leading up to this, I was becoming a man. I'd really changed from being a kind of young kid. I was becoming a man. I was coming into my own, in a sense, even though my individuality was subsumed by the greater whole. And this is an interesting point I'm going to come to in the development of the story, is when you become part of a group, and specifically this group, the Krishna organization, there's a big, you automatically become part of the community, and you're part of a whole. And it's interesting to see how long this process of just kind of serving the whole will be able to satisfy one's own individual needs. How long will that process go on before one's own individual needs become maybe paramount, or maybe more demanding than the needs of the group, or how to organize them simultaneously? And it was one of the problems that was going to face many individuals in this story. Another aspect of what we were all going through was it was all novel and new. The whole organization had only just started, and it's, very small, as I've mentioned, in 1966 in New York, gone to California, then gradually from there gone to Montreal, different parts of America, come to England, come to Germany, and then gone to Australia, and it was branching out. And these were all devotees who had only been around this philosophy for a couple of years, and they hadn't had all the literature, and they had a basic training, but they had extreme firm faith. And Prabhupada empowered them to go off and do these quite incredible tasks at very young ages. Most of the devotees were in their 20s. I was in the kind of very young category of pre-20s. You had some devotees that were 30 and above, like Tulsidas, but lots of the devotees were in their 20s, late 20s, and they were going through their story. People were evolving and growing, and the whole movement was just expanding and expanding and expanding. But it's like how far was this expansion going to go, that where it could incorporate all the individual needs of all the devotees that were joining and going through their journey. Many were beginning to get married, then have children, and so all these different questions were going to have to be answered about social life and how to develop this teaching and the spiritual philosophy into an organization, a coherent organization. And it was morphing and growing constantly all the time. And a lot of this also involves finances. It's part of the practical side of what goes on in the institutions, is that, wherever I was in my life, if I'd finished college or anywhere, I would have had to face these questions, how to survive and have a living. And so it wasn't that much different in the Krishna movement. It wasn't all just about just sitting in the temple and just kind of chanting Hare Krishna. Things had to be done. Money had to be raised to pay the rent, for the food, for the worship of the gods. And you became absorbed in this whole process. And it was going to, at that time, the devotees had, the only things they had really going to raise funds was the incense and the scents of essential oils, Spiritual Sky, this company, and the selling of literature. And there wasn't that much of it. And there was hardly anything in Dutch. It was all in English. So all the funds, there was two parties, most probably with 8 devotees, maximum 10, I think, that were going out traveling a lot and bringing in funds. And then there was this other funds coming in to cover all these costs. And then in this process, it was a winter a day, and I'd always had a bit of a problem about this whole thing of going on the streets and approaching people and getting donations. I didn't really always feel comfortable with that aspect of Krishna consciousness, even though I knew that it was a necessary part at that time for the development for various reasons. And it was a winter day, and Tirtha Sadhaka and Mrigapati and some other devotees who were on the traveling Sankirtan at that time kind of called me up to this little room where they were upstairs into the prasada room. They had all got ill and sick and flu, and they had come back for the weekend and they weren't able to go out traveling. And they called me into their little gathering, and they had some lovely Maha Prasadam, beautiful preparations that had been offered to the deities that were exquisite. And they'd been given to them as a treat because they'd been traveling for weeks. And they invited me up to the room, and we were sitting. And it was one of those talks like, there's a time in everybody's life, son, when you have to grow. And there I was listening to the story, and they were looking at me, and they were saying, look, they were kind of praising my sincerity as a new devotee, and I kind of proved myself to be sincere. Hadn't been initiated yet, but it was that we should maybe go on out just for a week while they were sick and help with the Sankirtan. Would I be up for that? Just a week. And as they were saying that, I was looking at them. They were kind of looking at each other, going, just a week, And yes, of course, what happened to me was that was me kind of sorted with my main kind of occupation for the next couple of years. I became they called it a Sankirtan devotee. This was based on the idea that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who'd founded the Gaudiya Math, had said that a drum, the mridanga, if you beat it and chanted Hare Krishna, it could be heard a few blocks away. But if you had a printing press and you could print literature and divine literature, you could spread this knowledge and this really far. Another form of transcendental sound vibration, and they called the kind of the printing press the Brihat Mridanga. Basically the big mridanga. And so the whole idea of distributing books rather than chanting had somehow, there's another Iskconism, it had been termed Sankirtan. It was called the traveling Sankirtan. Even though we may have gone and done Sankirtan chanting in some places, mostly it was a concentration on distributing literature. And so I became I was hired really and to go get involved with this part of the whole kind of part of the Krishna movement, and it's another part of my story. But that's what I wanted to bring you up to, this kind of part in the story, to show you how I just kind of I become involved. I've almost become a Mathuradas with the name, not quite yet. That is going to happen. But I'm going to carry on with that either tomorrow or the next day, and let you know the development of what it's like to be a Hare Krishna devotee, absorbed in the middle, and also all the transformation and the process that the temple in Amsterdam went through in this period, and how things changed. And this was going all over the Krishna movement at this time. The movement was changing, we were changing, we were all evolving and growing old, and we were all going on this collective journey. And what I really want to say was that we were all involved with a mass social experiment voluntarily, because no one had done this before. It was always stepping into the unknown. There was just a few devotees who had a little bit more experience before. And another thing was that nearly all the management of all the centers around the world was all American. That's got that had an effect really on the kind of the way that Iskcon spread and its mindset. Most of all the managers around the world of the Krishna centers at the time, even in Europe, were Americans, because that's where they'd all been trained, and that kind of had an influence definitely on the nature of how the Krishna movement developed. And I will get into some of those stories, like I said, in the next sharing. I'm sorry about the transmission getting interrupted. I really hope that some of you who were watching the first one discovered this video that carried on, and if not, then hopefully you'll go back to it and hear this part of the story. Thank you very much. It's been again a privilege to share this with you. I think that I'm going to sing one song, which is Jar Love, because through these sharings, funnily, another synchronicity is that my other dear friend Sava Boma, who's been watching these from Glastonbury, sent the link to this another old Krishna devotee called Paramahansa, who I never met, but he was in Amsterdam with his friend Paribrajikacharya when they were young swamis in Amsterdam before I'd come. And we've just made friends via these shares. It's wonderful. He's in America, and he said he liked Jar Love, and so I'm going to do it again, okay, because I want to sing a song. So this is the first song I ever wrote in my late 40s, and I wrote it with Pranaji, and it's in the reggae idiom, and Jar is the Rasta name for God, Bhagwan. And the chorus is Jar Love, rain down on me. And there's another chorus which is drink deep from the chalice of wisdom, eat hearty the fruits of Jar Love. Please join in. The moon shines brightly tonight, and the stars in the heavens immersed in light. We are connected to all. I dance to the rhythm of life, and I feel Jar Love within my soul. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Jar Love, rain down on me. Jar Love, rain down on me. Sisters and brothers, please hear my song. Man, I've but a short time to live. Don't want to get it wrong. Reality is not what it seems, what it appears to be. Beyond the veil of illusion lies real identity. Oh. Drink deep from the chalice of wisdom. Eat hearty the fruits of your love. Drink deep from the chalice of wisdom. Eat hearty the fruits of your love, your love. With the final curtain, you'll come and take your bow. Leave the magic theater, the one you're in right now. Life come round full circle. You can come back again. Go through the same old story till you don't know when. Jar Love, but when you're feeling Jar Love, you fill your heart and soul. You no, come back here no more. 'Cause Jar Jar take you home. Jar Love, rain down on me. Jar Love, rain down on me. chalice of wisdom. Eat hearty the fruits of Jala. Drink deep from the chalice of wisdom. Eat hearty the fruits of Jala, Jala, Jala. Ooh. Sisters and brothers, each one a star. Take hold of your courage, embrace your power. The prophets have spoken, the system will fall. Awaken your children, we herald the dawn. Your love rain down on me. Your love rain down on me. The moon shines brightly tonight, and the stars in the heavens immersed in light. We are connected to all. We are connected to all. We are connected, 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 connected to all, to all, to all, to all, to all. Jah love. And may that love rain down on all of us. Wonderful again to be able to spend some time sharing some songs, some chants. Jai Ramanujacharya, his appearance today, my goodness, I'm such a fan of Ramanujacharya. The philosophy that he has, one of his main arguments is that if we are all identical with God in every sense of the term, how come that we've forgotten that we're God? How come ignorance is so powerful that it's covered God and made God forget? That's one of his great arguments against absolute monism, which I love. So homages to Ramanujacharya for all his contribution to everything and for being such a wonderful acharya and an empowered person by the divine. And part of the reason why I'm here giving this talk, it's all part of an amazing historical process. And I mean, I get so absorbed in this, I do literally forget about what's going on in the world. And it helps me connect with my own spiritual power, my path, my dharma. And for me, this is one of the most important things, to keep this equilibrium, to not get too distracted by all of the things going on. And also intense gratitude for being where I am, having the technology and the opportunity to be able to share and connect with people, even though we're all separate. And I really do feel your presence, like I am with all of you, even though we're separated. And thank you so much again. Hare Om. I wish you all the best. Lots of love. Stay safe. And see you soon. I will again let everyone know when I'm giving my next share. And sorry again for the interruption in the video. I hope many people got back to see the second part. Hare Om.